We love her. Are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay. Now we begin. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Florence Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Sally Wantz. It's my pleasure to meet and greet you all today. So as we start our service, I want you to know that we acknowledge that the land we stand on here is the traditional land of the very first people of the Siuslaw. First people of Florence, which would be the Siuslaw Indians. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Siuslaw Indians, past, present, and future. We are going to start our service today with, what should we do? Spirit of Life? Okay, let's do Spirit of Life. Ray is going to cue up Spirit of Life, which was pre-recorded by Jeff Lovejoy. So we like to get all our musicians in here all at once as best we can. So Ray, let's Spirit of Life. The words are in your program on the bottom right. If you want to join us, stand up as you are able. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart, O streams of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice, roots wholly close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Again, welcome to our fellowship. Woo, that's great. So inside the program is a reminder that unless you're standing up here at the podium, we ask that you remain masked at all times. And if you need to be more socially distanced, move your chair or go sit in the back or do what you need to do. We want you to be comfortable and safe as you need to be, all right? Are there any guests here today? I know I have 2 up front, actually 3 up front. Are there any other guests with us today for the first time? Seeing none. Carrie, are you going to introduce everybody, or shall we ask them to introduce themselves? Okay, starting with Nora. Turn around.
Hi, I'm Nora. I'm one of Kari's friends from college out here living with her for the summer and here to see her teach.
Yes.
Welcome.
And CJ.
Hello, I'm CJ. I'm Kari's partner, also living with her for the summer with Nora. We met at college, but we're not in college right now. We're in Ashland.
And Beth, who we met earlier this morning. Hello, Beth.
Hi, I'm Beth Viper, and I'm a longtime family friend of Kari's, so I live in Eugene.
Welcome.
Beth came over just to be with us today and to hear Kari talk, and well, we're all here to hear Kari talk, right? Not me. So as we do with all of our first-time guests, we offer you our gift. This is a little book of haiku, and it's called Windows to the Soul, and it was written by a local author, and she gave us many copies that we like to give away to our first-time guests. So we ask you to enjoy it. Kari, you got a copy of that, didn't you? Okay. So at the conclusion of our service today, we invite you to come up front and join Kari and CJ and Nora. They'll be in a big dialogue circle up here so you can get to know these people better, okay? Or if you'd like to, Catherine is available for affirmative prayer in our library. And then we're going to head outside. So when service is over, you're done talking up here with Kari, head out back. We've got a gathering out back. Bring your chair, and if you brought food, that's great too. And in the program, you'll notice I've listed some upcoming events that we've got this next week. On the 27th, we've got Mind, Body, Spirit, Health, and Wellness class with Dean Schrock. We've got the fog hike on Wednesday, and we're going to be hiking Hesita Beach, so meet here at 10 o'clock on the 27th. A Course in Miracles, and then Soul Matters class with Ruth Miller. So these are the things we have coming up over the next 7 days. And if you need to get in touch with any one of those people, that would be Dean or Ruth, their contact information is below. And next week is the 1st of something? Yes. 1st of August, oh my gosh. So Dean Schrock will be our guest speaker next Sunday, and that will be especially nice to have him here. Are there any other announcements that anybody else has? Yeah, Deborah, please come forward. And we're going to ask that you come to the microphone and talk into the microphone. So we can hear you.
I just wanted to point out that we now have a functioning community bulletin board in the hallway by the library and office. On the left side are FOOF announcements. You can find the most recent board meeting minutes, and the most recent treasury reports, class schedules, hiking schedules, long ads, and that kind of stuff. The whole right side is pretty much empty right now, and that's for all of you to use. If any of you have businesses or services you would like to advertise, or events you have going on, you have musicians who might be playing a gig someplace and want to let us know, that whole site is for you to post whatever you would like.
Thank you. Wow, that's nice. We're getting very organized here in our old age. Thank you, Deborah. That's our president. I know. Yes, Judy. Announcement? Yes, please come forward here.
Speak into the microphone.
We record these, so if you don't come forward and talk into the microphone, we can't hear you.
So many of you have participated in the free lunch program that we have done for many, many years in cooperation with the Methodist Church. It was a Tuesday, Thursday. We made some soups, served bread, dessert, soups to anybody who wanted to come in. That program got suspended and handled in a different way during COVID, but under the leadership of Don Gardner, who is the new director of that program. They are looking to start up again potentially in September, maybe in October. But we are looking to see if there's enough interest to reform the FOOF group and offer that our services either once or twice a month, depending on how many folks we have. We need cooks, we need people that can clean up, do dishes, people that will serve, people that will just visit. So if you haven't contacted me to let me know you're interested, please do. My email is in the blast that comes out every Wednesday, as is Don's phone number, or see me after service. Thank you.
And when we cook, do we actually cook at home and bring it, or do we cook it there?
No, we bring all the ingredients there and cook it there because they have a kind of a semi-commercial kitchen that's sterile and has all the right things. We follow all the food handlers' requirements so that it's a good, healthy meal for folks.
You have to get your food handled.
So, and if, you know, FOOF is happy to reimburse you for the ingredients if you want to cook, but it's a challenge to get that much stuff together. We're happy to help you with that and reimburse you for that. And any other questions, see me.
Thank you. Hey. So Don has been doing this for a long time. He and his lifelong partner, Don Madison, who's recently passed away, the two of them were the guiding force of that free lunch program on behalf of FOOF. So thank you, Don. And thank you, Judy, for stepping forward. This will be good. As I said, I'm available Thursdays. Okay? Can't do Tuesday. That's a tough one for me. Any other announcements before we get going? Okay, great. It's good to see you all. Thanks for being here. I'm going to invite Raymond to come forward as we light our chalice, which is our opening sort of ritual. And I'm going to recite these words from Julianne Lepp, titled, Open to Unexpected Answers. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths. Blessed be. I invite Catherine to come forward. This is a time, love this time, where we do our joys and concerns. I'll be glad to drop the shell. If anybody wants to share a joy or concern, we ask that you come behind the podium and speak into the microphone so we can hear you, all those pearls of wisdoms that you offer us. Or I could pass the microphone. Should I do that? Whatever you feel like. You're always in charge, Sal.
I've got power.
Thank you, everyone, and good morning. This is the time of the service where we pause to acknowledge each other and be grateful for each other. Grateful that we have someone to reach out to, and grateful that we have the courage to reach out when we need to. If you have anything to share, a joy or a concern, as Sally said, she will hand you the microphone. If you will just line up right here.
Or I'll come to you. And
Okay.
if you have something to share,
Okay, yeah.
speak into that microphone so we can hear you.
Well, first, I want to thank all the people in this group who have reached out to me. Some of you may not know that my partner Dave has incurable lung cancer. He's finished his radiation, and tomorrow we start a long series of chemo. And all of this support makes all the difference in the world, and it just feels uplifting. So thanks to each and every one of you. And again, I thank all the people who have helped to remodel this beautiful facility and give us such a wonderful, wonderful worship center.
Just wait until it's done. It's going to be spectacular. David Mills.
Catherine's got the shells.
Well, I just, a couple of joys. Make one of them really big. As many of you know, I got married. It was against my will to again, and because it's been a long, long time since I've been married.
Put that microphone up. We want to hear this.
Okay.
There you go.
Can you hear me now? So anyway, Jenny Schmidt, who has been here, she's spoken to us several times. She's a staff chaplain at the hospital. I wasn't what she was looking for, but I am younger than her father by 2 weeks. And so anyway, we got married in April, and we wanted to do that before she had her surgery. For those of you that aren't online 24/7, she had to have a brain surgery, a tumor removed, and this is a very serious surgery, but it turned out really well, and she's getting to the point where she can walk just fine now, and has some things that are need to be improved on, but she's making progress, so that's a real joy.
I saw Joni and David at Fred Meyer yesterday, and she just looked fabulous. There was such a joy in her face, so it was lovely to see her there. Anyone else have a joy or concern you'd like to share? I have a couple. Okay. I have a joy. I really appreciate our Power of 8 group that we've started online. We learned about it from Reverend Donna, who many of you heard last week. And while we follow the general format, I really appreciate that we make it our own, with our own words and thoughts and heartful intentions for the transformation of the planet and ourselves. I appreciate all of you ladies. Thank you. Yeah, that one. And I have a concern from Jeff Lovejoy. I didn't know if he could make it today. His very good friend John, who was in a musical duo with him for 12 years, was rushed to the hospital a couple of nights ago, and he's scheduled to have a triple bypass on Tuesday. This is very difficult for Jeff because this is an old friend and someone he spent so much time with. So, yeah, 2 shells actually. One for Jeff and one for John. Mm-hmm. And the third one, for all those we don't know about, those not ready to share for whatever reasons, we still embrace you in our really inclusive circle of love. And in Ram Dass's words, remember, we are all walking each other home. How are you helping your fellow traveler?
Blessed be.
Wow, that's beautiful. Kari selected a few readings. This isn't really a reading necessarily, it's a quote, but it is from Ursula Goodenough, and it's titled Emergence. And I believe it's typed into your program, but I'll read it here. You're welcome to read along with me if you like. The religious naturalist is provisioned with tales of natural emergence that are, to my mind, far more magical than traditional miracles. Emergence is inherent in everything that is alive, allowing our yearning for supernatural miracles to be subsumed by our joy and the countless miracles that surround us. That's beautiful. Thank you, Kari. So we have a musical interlude. I'm going to ask Ray if he could plug that in, and if we could turn off the lights around us. We're going to see this on the TV. This is a song called Holy Now by Roger Mayer? Huh? Peter. Yeah. Who?
When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. And when I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad, miracles don't happen still. But now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips. But now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. But I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Child's face, say it's not a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come, say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. But I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.
Well, that choked me up. Today's speaker, Kari Gottfried, and who knew she had such a beautiful given name, is a young adult raised in the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Corvallis and a junior studying religion at Wellesley College in Massachusetts. She recently was one of the panelists for the 2021 Sophia Lyons Vaz Lecture and currently serves the Sanctuary Boston as Campus Ministry Coordinator. Krishna has preached to us on several occasions over the past few years, and we are thrilled she is back in the area for the summer and is with us today. Please help me join in welcoming Krishna.
Wow, it is really good to be back with all of you. The last time I preached in person was in February of 2020 in Malden, Massachusetts, so it's been a while. And I'm so grateful both for the opportunity to stay in community with you this past year and a half via Zoom and video, and very, very excited to be back in person again. I've been spending my summer in Ashland with my friends Nora and CJ, and we've already had several adventures together, from going to the lake with my sister, to hosting a friend hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, to relying on the kindness of mutual friends when our car broke down on the way to the Redwoods. Overall, the summer has been really, really lovely. But as we begin to emerge from this pandemic, and my mind has enough time to focus on things besides COVID, I've begun to truly comprehend how much is really not right in the world right now. When we drove to Ashland from Corvallis in late June, the temperature was a record-setting 115 degrees. Fires rage around us, and smoke fills the air every afternoon, even as our communities are still recovering from last year's deadly wildfire season. The KN95 masks that my mom bought our family for the pandemic are now being repurposed to protect against smoke inhalation as the air quality grows increasingly worse every day. And as the land suffers and burns, it is continuing to be stolen from Indigenous people through projects like the Enbridge Line 3 pipeline currently in the works on Anishinaabe land. The world is a hard place to be. With all this frustration and despair ever present in my mind these days, as my housemates and I keep a daily check on the wildfires surrounding us and the constantly increasing air quality index, I've been trying so hard to find ways to keep myself grounded and in community. I started participating in a small group through UU Wellspring for young adults, tying me into spiritual practice and faith development on a consistent weekly schedule. Each session is focused on a different one of our Unitarian Universalist sources. And last week's was on the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. We were asked to journal and share a time we had directly experienced mystery and wonder. And because it happened right here on the Oregon coast, I'd like to share it with you all too. It was my senior year of high school, and my fellowship's youth group was spending the weekend on the Oregon coast for our annual fall retreat. After a day filled with team building activities, deep listening, and more than a few s'mores, a group of us decided that we wanted to go down to the beach. It was 10, maybe 11 p.m., and the rest of the campsites were silent and empty. We took the winding trail through the beach grass, the boardwalk slowly disintegrating into sand beneath our bare feet, laughing and talking loudly, knowing there was no one around to make us be quiet. But suddenly we all fell silent. We had arrived at the top of the trail on a sand dune that gave way to the shoreline. We stood in speechless awe of the transcendent beauty in front of us. The moon was nearly full, enough that we could see its reflection on the gentle waves. For one long moment, suspended in time, we were all quiet. That moment was soon broken as a few of my friends leapt off the path and into the sand dune, screaming wildly as their feet carried them to the water. I followed them down, feeling the cries escape my body and disappear into the great nothingness that surrounded us. When I got to the bottom of the dune, my lungs burned from the combination of running and shouting, and I paused to catch my breath. Exhausted, I gasped for air, looking around as I adjusted to the shift in surroundings from the top of the dune to the water's edge. Besides my small youth group, there were no signs of human life, or even human influence, just a distant lighthouse and a faraway ship. The sand was smooth, newly washed in with the tide, and the beach grass obscured any houses that could have been lining the shores. As I fastened my attention on the sound of the waves crashing up on the beach, my friends' voices faded into the background. My breath, just returning to my tired body, caught in my throat as I looked out at the ocean. As far as I could see in the dusty moonlight, the waves of the ocean rolled on. Even though science told me it was just because of the curvature of the earth, in that moment, I was witnessing the edge of the world. There was something about the moon tugging on the waves, the stars reflected on the sea, that made me feel so very connected and so very small. And I've been returning to that memory more often recently. We went to the sea lion caves yesterday. There was a lot of sea lions there. And the clouds and the fog had rolled in, so we couldn't see much past where the waves began. It seemed like anything could be out there. Both the sea and the sky are so full of so many unknowns. And there's nothing like the knowledge of the existence of the entire universe to humble you. This past spring, I took an introductory astronomy class to fulfill my science and lab graduation requirements. And I'm a religion major, so it was both very different from the classes I'm usually used to, and somehow very similar as well. I have to say, I think I had more existential crises in that class than I've ever had in any religion class. We'd study the beginnings of the universe, learning about stars and galaxies that were so large I couldn't even really understand their size, realizing that the tiny pinpoints of light in the sky were so far away I couldn't even comprehend that to reach them would not only take my lifetime, but the lifetime of our entire human species. Our lives are so short compared to the stars. Robin Wall Kimmerer, in her book Braiding Sweetgrass, writes, "Time as objective reality has never made much sense to me. It's what happens that matters. How can minutes and years, devices of our own creation, mean the same thing to gnats and to cedars? 200 years is young for the trees whose tops this morning are hung with mist. It's an eye blink of time for the river and nothing at all for the rocks. The rocks and the river and these very same trees are likely to be here in another 200 years, if we take good care. As for me and that chipmunk and the cloud of gnats milling in the shaft of sunlight, we will have moved on. We will have moved on. No matter what I do in this lifetime, the stars will remain. But as Kimmerer says, it's what happens that matters. For for your little small piece of life in this universe, what matters? Now, I find it hard to believe that anything matters sometimes, especially when it comes to things like climate change. I've tried to go vegetarian. I've recycled as best as I can. I'm taking the train back to college instead of flying. But these actions are so small. When a collective 70% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions are created by only 100 companies, it can feel like nothing is ever enough. I'm back on that beach, feeling about as small as a grain of sand. But still, I do my best. And I try to do at least one thing every day that brings someone else joy. One of my favorite ways to do that is by making someone a cup of tea. And yes, sometimes that just involves sticking a tea bag into a mug of hot water, but I've also been experimenting and making my own tea blends, crafting the perfect blend of rose petals and chamomile, or ginger root and tulsi basil. Most of my herbs are back at school though, so this summer I've been focusing on what I have at hand. And right now, that's a lot of lavender. I've taken to going on walks around my neighborhood with a pair of clippers and a reusable bag, just picking a few stalks of lavender everywhere I go from the flowers that grow along the streets. It's never enough to be noticed, but it's the perfect amount to brighten up the house by slipping a few in an empty bottle. And the other week, I made lavender simple syrup for my housemates and I to put in our drinks. So it's been very lovely. And as I harvest the lavender, I have to be really careful to avoid grabbing a bee in my hand. That would not be a fun experience. So I tell them, leave me alone, there's plenty enough for all of us. And most of the time they listen, they go off to other flowers. And after all, those bees are busy. They can visit up to 5,000 flowers in a day. It's a lot more than I can visit. But in the lifetime of bees, which is a little less than a month each, do you know how much honey they end up making, each individual bee in its lifetime?
No.
Just 1/12 of a teaspoon.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Can you imagine that amount? Can you imagine a 1/12 of a teaspoon? That's enough honey to fill a 1/4 teaspoon a third of the way. In other words, just a few drops. So think about that the next time you have some tea with honey. But bees aren't solitary creatures. They live in community, and community matters. Each bee plays an important part in the hive. And although each individual bee only contributes a little, together a hive can make up to 200 gallons of honey in a year. Reverend Kimberly Tomzak Carlson writes, "Often we forget how miraculous we are. The sheer improbability of our existence escapes us. Thank goodness there are small miracles surrounding us." I love the way she puts it, small miracles. The very phrase is a bit contradictory. A miracle is anything but small. But it's just like Peter Mayer says in Holy Now. The challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. The miracle of a bee's existence in itself, able to propel its relatively large body up through the air with tiny, tiny wings. The miracle that flowers and bees rely on each other to be pollinated and fed to survive. The miracle that while each individual bee's contributions may be small, it is enough through the power of collective action. Thank goodness there are small miracles surrounding us. I try to take notice of those small miracles, acknowledging the gratitude I have for all of the good in the world, however small. The car that left one spot open in a packed parking lot, just as I pulled in. The barista who brought my coffee right to my table. The neighbor who put an interesting book in the little library by our house. A sweet message from a friend. Most of the time, these people aren't even aware that what they've done has had a positive impact on someone else. And even if they are, they generally have no idea how much it has truly meant. How can something so small that someone doesn't even notice they're doing it mean so much? There's this theory called the butterfly effect. It's the idea that small things can have non-linear impacts on a complex system. The concept is imagined with a butterfly flapping its wings and causing a typhoon. Of course, a single act like a butterfly flapping its wings isn't enough to cause a typhoon, A single bee in its lifetime isn't enough to make enough honey to be tasted in a cup of tea. And a single person working to make the world a better place, one act of kindness at a time, won't be enough to save the world. And that's the goal, right? Saving the world. Most of the time, religion focuses on personal salvation, how each individual is able to reach heaven after they die here on earth. And depending on the religion, there are certain things that need to happen to gain salvation. In traditional Universalism, it is taught that we are all saved and none are damned. This idea of universal salvation is still important to us as a faith today, but as Unitarian Universalists, we like to focus on the belief of salvation in this life. As Peter Mayer sings, it used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, because everything is holy now. Take a walk on the beach after sunset and look at the stars. Pay attention to the bees as they buzz among the flowers. Remember the smile of every person you meet. Those small miracles, those holy miracles, are my inspiration to do everything I can to make the world the best it can be, right here and now. Everything is holy when we believe in salvation in this life. If all these words, miracle, holy, salvation, are making you feel a little uncomfortable, that's okay. A lot of the words that Unitarian Universalists use in religious contexts have different meanings for each of us based on our individual faith paths. And many of us have experienced pain and harm from others who weaponize these words. And in our congregations, we are here to accept one another and encourage spiritual growth. So I think it's important to sit with those words and pay attention to the emotions they evoke. And if those ideas of salvation and heaven are working for you, try this understanding of the word. The English word salvation derives from the Latin salus, meaning safe, whole, and healthy. And don't we, as Unitarian Universalists, want to be safe, whole, and healthy? There are many ways that Unitarian Universalism has acted and is acting on this theological belief of salvation in this life. Starting in 1997, the Journey Towards Wholeness Transformation Committee was established in response to a General Assembly business resolution toward an anti-racist Unitarian Universalist association. The committee's charge was to monitor and assess the work of the association toward becoming a genuinely anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural institution. And that is one of the ways that we are working towards salvation for all. Many Unitarian Universalists were involved in this committee's work. In fact, Reverend Elizabeth Mount, Florence's recent contract minister, was a former member. And although the work is being transitioned into a new group, the work is far from over. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm that we are on the journey towards wholeness, towards salvation in this life. We must work here and now to save ourselves, and because of our interdependence on the web of life, to save the world. So yes, I'd argue it is our moral and spiritual duty to save the world. I'd like to share with you the words of Deanna Van Diver, who said this much better than I could. We find our salvation here on earth, showing up for each other with mercy, respect, and compassion. How are we relating to our neighbors, our friends? As a people of faith, we are called to a love that is bold, to love beyond our skill and through our fear with courage and compassion. As a faithful collective, we are called to offer sanctuary, refuge, and comfort to everyone afflicted by the systems of oppression in this world. As faithful individuals, we are called to relationships of care and accountability. It makes a difference in the quality of this world when people with access to privilege and power give voice to a vision of collective liberation and name the obstacles within and without that limit us. Can we choose to live courageously, a people of faith, a people so bold? Can we faithfully challenge evil in the world and the sins of society that have become internalized within our beings? Our faith does not require that we be unafraid, only that we do not lead with fear or make our decisions from a place of fear. Our presence matters. How we relate to each other creates the conditions of hell or heaven here on earth. Regardless of our personal beliefs, as a people of faith, we are in this fight right now. No one is coming to save us. And we might not even be enough to save us if we can't work together. But if the wings of a butterfly can cause a typhoon on the other side of the world, maybe they can cause much needed rain to fall on the fires here in Oregon. Maybe when you smile at someone, it gives them the last bit of confidence they need to nail that interview or to stand up to a bully. Maybe that donation you made to that mutual aid fund ends up being what someone needs to stay safe and healthy, to find their own salvation. The lavender you plant becomes the next resting place for a tired bee, or maybe even someone like me gathering wildflowers from the neighborhood. The best, or maybe the worst, depending on your perspective, part of the butterfly effect is that you don't know all the ways that your actions will affect others, or if it will even be enough. But despite it all, it is our spiritual duty to try as hard as we can to love the hell out of this world. May it be so.
Oh, I tell you, she's something else, isn't she? You are. So we were joking with Kari last night when she was sharing dinner with us. When the time comes and she's graduated and has become full-fledged minister, could we have first rights of refusal to hire me or here? Right? Please, everybody with me, right? I'm just saying, we would love to have you here, okay? Okay, wow, thank you very, very much. Really appreciate your message. So well delivered and very nicely received. Okay. So now you're going to sit up front with her, right? When we're done, and we're going to talk more about this message. Yeah. So I invite two of you to come forward. We have two parts to our offering. One part is the contributions and donations you might want to make to this particular fellowship. And we accept all contributions, all donations, all pledge payments of support. And we will be passing the basket around. And you'll notice this lovely turquoise, green, whatever it is, turquoise. So this is going to be the offering for our particular fellowship. You can put your contribution in there if you prefer, and/or you can contribute to food backpacks for kids. So this is going to be inside, and you can put your contribution in for that particular organization. So I think you know about food, but what you might not know is about food backpacks for kids. And I invite two of you to come forward and share a little bit about that. Two of you right here on the microphone. And your mask is somewhere. To be on your face.
Thank you. Just like a Jewish mom. So this is...
Come here.
What are you doing for lunch today? Are you going to have lunch? Will food be there if you're hungry? For 110 children in our community, there's nothing in the pantry. For these children, as young as, well, young, 7, 8, younger, they have nothing to eat at home. And our food service delivery here, the food bank and others, just don't have enough food to keep up for the demand. During the winter, Backpacks for Kids does kick in and make sure that those children have enough food for the weekend. we have a workforce that is in short supply. So why don't people get jobs and earn money to put the food in the pantry? But you cannot tell that to an 8-year-old. Those little souls depend on the big people, us. So when that basket comes around, let's all be Jewish mothers. Be kind, give with your mind, give with your soul, and give with your heart. Because as Anne would always say, it's for the kids.
I see.
So he's right. This is a program called Food Backpacks for Kids. And it's an organization, every week they pack up these backpacks with food and distribute them anonymously to the children around town here in Florence and in Mapleton, and make sure that they have food for the weekend. So pretty good organization. So those of you here will pass the basket. Those of you who are watching this at home, you can certainly make your contributions both to FOOF and to Backpacks for Kids by going onto our website and click on the donate button. It's an easy and painless way of requesting and paying off your donation or contribution. So I'm going to ask Catherine, would you help me again?
Yes.
And Deborah, will you help me on this side? We're going to pass the basket. Again, on the inside is Food Backpacks for Kids. Around the outside is for this particular fellowship. And Ray's going to play a little music that Jeff recorded. It's called Space Among the Stars. Thank you to Jeff for pre-recording many of our musical pieces that we've used during this pandemic and will continue to use as we need to and enjoy as long as we can. So thank you, Jeff. I want to say we receive these gifts in grateful appreciation. Truly, thank you very much. I invite Raymond to come back up. We're going to extinguish our chalice, the flame in there. Ray's going to continue to charm us with the These words come from Brian Keeley, titled Carry the Flame. The chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each and every one of you. Carry that flame with you as you leave this place and share it with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you have yet to meet. I invite you now, we're going to sing our peace song. Two things. We gather in a big circle. If you want to hold hands with the person next to you or lock arms, please ask permission. And don't be offended if they say no, but we're going to gather in a circle anyway. Tubi is going to lead us in our peace song. For those that you don't know, the words are on the back of your program. So I invite all to gather around, and we're going to sing the peace song.
This is such a joyous way of concluding our time together. And as you might know, we've done a few little jazzy things at the end. So I want you to watch Karen and see what she does, so that when we float up to the ceiling at the end and we're raising our hands, your hands don't get tired.